Hello everyone, welcome back to the Undercut. Today we're going to be taking a dive into the past and we're going to be talking about things that almost happened in Formula 1. Obviously waiting in the off-season before 2025 fully gets underway. But let's just take a look in light of course, Lewis Hamilton joining Ferrari. It's crazy driver transfers, crazy things that almost happened in F1's history.
Yeah, well, we've got one potential that could happen in the future in Max Verstappen going to Aston Martin.
Yes, that could be on the list.
That could be on the list come this time next year.
Yeah, it could be. It could be.
But on the list right now, we've come up with 7.
Yep.
We've only got 7. There's plenty more out there, but these are 7 that are quite some very surprising, some less surprising, I would say.
Some that you guys might not even know.
Yeah. But we'll kick it off with Robert Kubica, almost signing for Ferrari in 2012, of which he would have partnered Fernando Alonso. But his crash 2011, his rally crash, stopped this move from ever happening.
That would have been one of the greatest lineups of our generation, I think. It's Robert Kubica before his crash was absolutely insane. We know he was a fantastic driver.
What a different career it would have been if he ended up at Ferrari.
Yeah, 100%. And we know he came very close to challenging for the title in 2008. He actually led the World Drivers' Championship at one point in 2008 after his win in Canada. So he was very much in that fight. Proved he had what it took. 2009, the BMW wasn't really there with the Red Bull and the Brawn. And then, of course, 2010 moved to Renault and did very well, especially up against Vitaly Petrov, who definitely underperformed. And then could have moved to Ferrari for 2011. And yeah, that would have been amazing.
Yes, it would have been pretty awesome to see Kubica versus Alonso. It would have been interesting to see that dynamic as a team, to be fair.
Yeah, it would have been. Obviously, Fernando Alonso being the team leader, but I think Kubica was one of those drivers that probably could have taken it to Fernando. A little bit more than Felipe Massa could at the time. What I think would have been interesting is, would he have stuck around to, like, 2015, the Vettel era? You know what I mean? Would he have been around then?
Well... That's interesting because obviously he came back and partnered George Russell at Williams even later than that. So potentially.
Yeah.
I mean, a driver who we're going to mention next could have had something to say about that one.
Yep.
And that is Jules Bianchi. Obviously, we probably all know this one. He was set to be the next Ferrari star before his horrific, fateful crash in Suzuka 2014.
Yeah, it was really unfortunate for the whole of F1. We lost such a potential talent. I mean, nowadays, you know, with 11 years on, he would have been one of the more seasoned drivers in the paddock if he'd stuck around, which is actually crazy to think about. It was that long ago. But, yeah. He would have been a Ferrari superstar, I would reckon, because he wasn't he one of the only drivers, if not was he the only driver to ever score points for Marussia?
Yes, he did it at Monaco, wasn't it?
He did. He finished 9th at Monaco in 2014.
That was 14.
Yeah. So
yeah, he was having a phenomenal year, 2014.
Yeah, and it's such a shame because we could have been looking at a Ferrari partnership of potentially Jules Bianchi and Charles Leclerc.
Well, that's the thing. Could it have been Bianchi and Vettel at first instead of Raikkonen?
Possibly.
And then could it be Charles and Bianchi now? Does Lewis even go to that team if Bianchi and Charles are there and still on the pace? Did Carlos go to that team?
Well, that's the thing. I think it changes a lot of history because Jules Bianchi, if he'd lived up to what everyone thought he was capable of, I don't think so. You know, I think he's probably regarded as one of the best drivers on the grid. Probably would have been...
Who would have challenged Lewis Hamilton then between the Ferrari drivers? Would have been Jules or Seb?
I think it would have been both.
Well, if it was both, I think Lewis would have had an easier ride. That's the thing.
Oh, yeah, they would have taken points off each other, for sure. But I think Bianchi would have been unlucky in the fact that if he did stick around at Ferrari for that many years up until now, that obviously Ferrari being Ferrari, and we know their strategy calls and their illegal car, and he would have been at the helm of all those issues.
Yeah.
So I reckon Bianchi at this point in time probably would have been in that sort of one of the greatest drivers not to have won a world championship yet in his career.
Yes,
Probably. So
I would agree with that one.
and he would have just been unlucky at Ferrari, but he was obviously looking to go to Ferrari once again. Such a such a sad moment for all F1 fans and for his family and everyone. So rest in peace, Jules. But he was a great talent, and yeah, could have ended up at Ferrari.
Yeah. Well, the next one, arguably one of, if not the greatest driver transfers in terms of success, Lewis Hamilton could have gone to Red Bull in 2013 instead of
Yes.
Mercedes.
I remember this so vividly. This was big back then, and of course there was rumors that Lewis Hamilton wanted out of McLaren. Everyone thought it's actually, thinking back to it, it was actually kind of similar to the Ferrari rumors last year.
Yeah.
People didn't believe it. And I didn't believe it. I didn't believe the Ferrari rumors. I thought, nah, there's no way.
I believed it.
You did. It was the same with McLaren, because Hamilton and McLaren were like tight knit. They were like the tightest knit relationship in the whole paddock. Nothing could come between Lewis and his beloved McLaren, right?
Yeah.
And they'd had so much success, and McLaren was one of the biggest names in the sport. Why would you possibly leave McLaren for another team? But no, he made the right decision, moving to Mercedes, of course. But there was rumours that it was going to be Red Bull, which would have been interesting.
Yeah, that would have been crazy. Obviously, Seb Vettel was still there at the time.
Yeah.
We would have seen Lewis and Seb as teammates 2014. Did Daniel get in the car? We don't know. Would Seb have been kicked out then? Maybe. I mean, what would have happened with Max Verstappen?
Well, that's the question. I think probably what happens is he goes there 2013, probably wins the championship, or at least Vettel, and he pushes Vettel very close for it. And then 2014, probably him and Seb. Daniel isn't there. Seb probably leaves for Ferrari, and then Daniel partners Lewis probably, and then Max.
But then who do you kick out of that Red Bull when Max comes through between Lewis and Daniel?
Daniel, but I don't think they kick Daniel out. I think Max has to wait at Toro Rosso a bit longer until Daniel leaves or Lewis leaves.
Yeah,
I think
it's crazy.
in that case.
Case.
Max could have been in Toro Rosso for a few more years if that was
Max's
the case.
career could have. Yeah, but if he stays at Toro Rosso, is he as good as he is now?
Is he that? Well, actually, this is another thing as well. Is Max Verstappen then tempted by Mercedes?
Mercedes, Ferrari, McLaren,
Because
Renault because Renault back then were arguably best of the rest consistently.
They were,
If not
and
Force India sometimes.
we're also looking at as well. You got to think if Hamilton went to Red Bull, and Nico Rosberg, 3-time world champion at the very least.
He probably would have carried on.
Yeah. And who says he doesn't carry on into 17 and 18 without the threat of Hamilton?
Yeah, well, the man who probably, moving on next, which links into this one.
Yeah.
Who probably would have put a stop to Nico Rosberg. I think he would have put an end to his curse, it seems, that he has. Nico Hülkenberg was the next one in line. If Lewis Hamilton said no to Mercedes in 2013, he would have signed for Mercedes in 2013.
Which is also very interesting because Hülkenberg has sort of been on the cusp to greatness for a long time.
Yeah.
And is never...
And this was confirmed by Ross Brawn as well.
Yeah, this is one of the ones that has been confirmed. It isn't just reports. Like, this was going to happen. And what I find interesting about this one is that I think Sergio Perez managed to break the mold getting into Red Bull. Hulkenberg's never sort of had that opportunity, being sort of in the same category as Perez, as like a midfield
Yeah.
sort of driver. And this would have been his break. Never happened. And I feel sorry for Hulkenberg because I think he would have done well. He would have won, maybe upwards of 10 plus races in his time at Mercedes. Poles, fastest laps, lots of podiums, things that he obviously lacks at the moment. The elusive podium for Nico Hulkenberg.
Poor guy.
Yeah.
Poor guy. I mean, you say that about Perez. Obviously, Perez was at McLaren as well once upon a time.
He was, yeah.
Perez has had 2 stabs at a top team.
He has.
Quite interesting there. But yeah, no, he's cursed, isn't he, Nico Hulkenberg?
Yeah, he's cursed.
I think the curse was evident. Was it Germany 2019? Was it 2019, that mad wet race at Hockenheim?
Yeah, he was on for a podium.
Yeah, fluffed it.
Yeah, fluffed it.
Right, moving on to the next one. Now,
Yep.
This is a big one.
This is a big one.
And it involves, of course, Fernando Alonso.
Well, we couldn't do a driver transfer video without talking about Fernando Alonso.
No, probably the man that transfers every other fucking season.
I wouldn't be surprised. Is there a stat? Someone will be able to tell us. We didn't think about this beforehand, but is he the driver that has driven for the most teams in Formula 1 history? Competitively. Not counting reserve driver, not counting it, like competitively. Is he McLaren, Ferrari, Renault, Minardi? Am I missing one?
Ferrari.
Did I say Ferrari? I think I said Ferrari.
Said Minardi.
Minardi, McLaren, Ferrari, Renault / Alpine, Aston Martin. He's driven competitively for 5 teams.
No, there's plenty of people with 5 teams.
Okay, so he's definitely not. It seems like he is, though.
Yeah, he could get to 5 if Max Verstappen goes Aston Martin and he goes Red Bull, but
yeah,
at 6 even.
6, yeah. I mean, technically, if you separate Alpine and Renault, but he had 3. He had 3 stints with Renault, by the way. 3.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Mad.
Yeah. Anyway, so Fernando Alonso, he has been approached over his career by Red Bull 6 times.
Mad.
He has rejected every single one of them. He most recently, he was approached by Red Bull twice in 2018.
Yeah, crazy.
He rejected them twice in 2018.
So what this means is if he did accept it, stayed on till 2022, it could have been a Max versus Fernando versus Charles, and then 2023 Max versus Fernando championship battle.
Yeah, 2024 as well.
Yeah, and 2024, what you would have been in that realm.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely crazy. The other 4 time periods is 2007.
Yep.
2009.
Which, by the way, that's probably the biggest in terms of changing the timeline. If he goes in 2009, he's... he's fighting Vettel directly in the same car for 4 years instead of in the Ferrari.
Yeah.
So...
well, he had another stab at potentially going 2011.
Yeah. Oh, there you go as well. There's another chance.
And 2013 would have been a chance as well.
Yeah, I mean that one, fair enough. He's probably glad he didn't go then.
If Fernando, obviously he's 2-time world champion, if he went to Red Bull in 2009,
yeah,
let's say, and he won them 4, that makes 6.
Yeah.
If he's there, say he goes to another team, which he probably would do in 2014, but then returns in 2018 when he gets approached twice again.
Yeah.
And he wins 2021, let's say, 2022, and 2023, and 2024. That's another 4. That's 10.
Fernando, he's known to be the driver that makes the worst driver transfer moves.
Yeah.
Though, isn't
Now
he?
we say Nico Hulkenberg is cursed in terms of on track. I think Fernando Alonso's cursed in terms of off track driver moves.
He's Fernando's been robbed of 8 world titles.
Maybe Red Bull don't want him if Max Verstappen goes. Otherwise, they're not winning no championship. I can tell you that.
Yeah, maybe not. I don't know. I just think it's mad, isn't it? I mean, it's fun theorizing because if buts and maybes, Hamilton should have won. Well, could have won 2016 if his engine didn't blow up.
Yeah.
Hamilton should have won 2010 and 2012 if the McLaren was reliable.
2021.
He should have won 2021. So, there's always if buts and maybes. Fernando could have won 8 more if he'd gone to Red Bull at the right times in his career. Seb could have won 2017 and 18. There's always the caveats, right? But I mean, the only driver on the current grid who's maximized every championship fight they've had is actually Max Verstappen at the moment.
One of which was dodgy.
Yeah, one of which was dodgy, but he has. So, yeah. But either way,
he hasn't. The FIA
if buts and
has.
maybes. Yeah. Right,
I'm
well.
still fuming. Leave it alone. We're 4 years later.
I know. Well, it's 4 years on, man. We need to let it go.
I can't.
We need to just be happy that Hamilton's at Ferrari. Let's hope he can do some madness.
Yeah, I hope so. Right. Next one. Rolling back the years now.
Rolling back.
Ayrton Senna. This is wanted, similar to obviously Lewis Hamilton, wanted a move to Ferrari in 1994. This would have been to replace either Gerhard Berger or Jean Alesi. It would have been one or the other. My bet would have been Berger.
Yeah, I would reckon Gerhard Berger as well.
Yeah. But he died that very same season.
Yeah. Sadly passed away, obviously, at the San Marino Grand Prix, Ayrton Senna. One of the greatest drivers to have ever lived. And he might have driven for Ferrari, which to think is terrifying.
Well, he would have been in that team with Schumacher.
Well, the thing is, I don't know, because maybe, probably, but the thing is at the time, if my research is correct, Ferrari kind of saw Jean Alesi as like the second coming of Christ, right? They really, really backed him.
Well, what's funny with that one though, before I think it was Schumacher came to Ferrari. Wait, remind me.
1996.
96. I want to say 96.
96, 97.
One of them.
It was around then. God, it was a long time ago now. We weren't even alive.
No, but Gerhard Berger and Jean Alesi both left Ferrari the exact same year, the exact same time, and went to Benetton straight away together. Yeah.
It wasn't until Schumacher that Jean Alesi was sort of moved on. But Ferrari really backed him at the time, so it probably would have been Gerhard Berger leaving, and it's Jean Alesi and Ayrton Senna. And it would have been really interesting to see if Michael Schumacher partnered Ayrton Senna, and if he did, what that meant then for
Schumacher.
What that meant for Schumacher. Does Ayrton Senna continue into the 2000s? I don't think so. I think he retires before then. I reckon the Hakkinen era is probably his last sort of stint.
Yeah.
But obviously, we don't know. We can't speculate on when he would have retired. But would he have won more titles? Ferrari weren't as competitive as they were in the 2000s in the late 90s. That was more Williams and McLaren's sort of era. But yeah, I mean, he would have put up a fight. I mean, it's Ayrton Senna at the end of the day. And also, it would have been interesting to see a direct comparison between potentially Schumacher and Senna, because them two are a lot of the time regarded as the two greatest of all time in terms of pure outright skill or whatever your pace. Would have been interesting to see. So yeah, who knows?
Yeah, no, definitely would have been interesting to see that one.
It would have.
But finally, on our list of 7, this is 7 out of 7, and Mr. Ron Dennis confirmed back in 2016 that Michael Schumacher had I can't say this word.
Preemptively?
Provisionally.
Oh, provisionally.
That's the word.
Okay,
provisionally
yes.
agreed to leave Ferrari in the late 90s to join Mika Hakkinen.
Yes.
And this is Ron Dennis confirming this in 2016.
Yeah, he's probably glad that he didn't. But obviously, yeah, I mean, we just mentioned as well, McLaren were competitive in the late 90s. Ferrari weren't as competitive. So that was Mika Hakkinen's era. Ferrari obviously fought them for the title. Michael fought him for the title. But McLaren had the edge. So it would have been interesting to see the outcome come the 2000s. I think it's more. I think I'm less interested in the battle between Hakkinen and Schumacher. More, I'm interested in who would have been at Ferrari to win those titles. Because Hakkinen, let's be honest, after his 2 championships, was coming to the end quite swiftly. Who would have won those championships though? That's what I want to know.
Barrichello.
Surely not. I mean, maybe.
You never know. He performed well.
I don't even. Who even goes to Ferrari in that time?
Well, that's the question, isn't it?
Who even goes there? I mean, Fernando was too young.
Well, the thing is, could Ferrari and McLaren have done a straight swap between Coulthard and Schumacher?
Coulthard could have been an option. He's very
Coulthard
people
was
underrate
no
him.
slouch.
People underrate Coulthard. The only reason Coulthard, I think, is overlooked is because he was up against prime Mika Hakkinen
and Schumacher
and Michael Schumacher in the same title fights. Could have been Coulthard. Do they wait on? I mean, imagine. Does the rising talent of Fernando Alonso catch their eye a bit earlier?
It would have been too early for the 2000s.
Do they sit with Rubens Barrichello and win a few titles with Rubens?
Yeah.
Do they bring in someone like Jarno Trulli, Giancarlo Fisichella? Like, I'm trying to think of other names that maybe were quite decent around that era.
Yeah.
Do they bring in Kimi Räikkönen? I think Kimi could have been a shout.
Kimi could have been a shout.
Actually, it could have been Kimi because Kimi goes to McLaren, doesn't he?
He does.
In 2003, 4. So Kimi could have been an option during that time period.
Could have been Kimi.
Yeah, there's a few options in there.
I mean, Lewis was 23 when he went 2007. I mean, he could have squeezed in 2005, maybe.
I don't think McLaren will let him go.
No,
because
fair.
after Mika...
He was under lock and key, to be fair, wasn't he?
After Mika left, even if Michael stayed until 2007 in McLaren, I mean, Hamilton's partnering him, 100%.
Yeah, he was under lock and key.
Yeah, he's under lock and key. Ron Dennis ain't letting no one go near Lewis Hamilton during that time. There's no way.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Yeah.
But that's the 7
That's
on
the
our
7.
list. Yes, that is our 7. I mean, it's quite an interesting 7, that, actually. Like, how the course of F1 history as we know could have been affected.
Out of all of them, Jack, which one would you have liked to have happened the most? Just out of pure curiosity.
Probably the Senna to Ferrari. I would have liked to see him and Schumacher go head to head.
That's fair. Yeah.
I think that would have settled possibly, like, one of the debates that we have nowadays is who is the greatest of all time, and we say, well, we haven't seen them in equal machinery, so we can't actually say.
Yeah, that would have been the closest, one of the closest ways we could have gotten to that debate being.
Yeah, 'cause usually when we debate, like, who's the greatest of all time, the only 3 names it was two names of Ayrton Senna and Michael Schumacher. It's now three with Lewis Hamilton. People are trying to make it four with Max Verstappen, but it's too early for that one. I mean, if he makes this five now, then he is definitely in the conversation. But
I mean, I think he is now. I mean, I'm just gonna say I think he is now.
okay,
He's 27. Bro.
Yeah. Okay. Chill out.
Man's old.
So it's now definitely three, potentially four in people's eyes. But originally it was two, and it was them two.
Yeah.
That would have been interesting to see them head to head. Because if they go head to head, does Michael even make it into that conversation? Does certain Ayrton whitewash him?
I mean, this is the conversation. Does Michael whitewash Ayrton Senna?
Exactly. That's
don't
the
know.
thing. Like, that would have settled the debate between them two, I think. So
yeah, that interesting. Yeah.
It would have been interesting to see that one.
Yours is very powerful. I would go with Jules Bianchi only because I would have liked to have seen what he could have done in a Ferrari.
Yeah, no, I can see that one.
Just off the basis that he was one of those talents that only comes around every couple of years or so. I think this year we're getting it with Kimi Antonelli and potentially Gabriel Bortoleto. We got it with Max Verstappen. We got it with Lewis Hamilton. We got it with Charles Leclerc. Potentially Lando Norris, maybe George Russell. He was one of those, and I think it would have been interesting to see how he fared up. But that's the one I would have liked to have seen. But anyway, yeah. That is it for driver transfers that almost happened in Formula One, which is kind of crazy. Fernando to Red Bull for next year then?
Unfortunately, no.
Well, we'll see you in the next video.